Welcome to Sports Skope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Skope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 25th day of September. And, of course, we've got another football game on right now. Monday night game. Looks like Eagles off to a slow start. You know something, teams that play Thursday games, you always think, well, they'll play great. You know, they'll play great come the next week, and they had the extra time off, and you know, it's only 3-0. It's kind of a sluggish start going against an inferior Tampa Bay team, but they are 2-0. They are 2-0. So I'll talk about that. Plus, looks like Joe Burrow is going to play tonight. I'll get a quick take in on that. Dolphins. Yes, they look great, but listen, it's still the first quarter. I will explain that and more. Let's go ahead and get our first and only break out of the way. We'll talk a little bit more about week 3 in the NFL here in 49 seconds. Hello, Sports Skope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Skope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, Skope, Skope, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. So in case you've missed it, folks, the news now is Joe Burrow will play tonight in this second game coming up here in just a few minutes for the Bengals. Playing with that bad calf is very dangerous. There's a chance he could tear his Achilles, and I hope it don't happen tonight. Listen to my take here on this program Friday night, explaining that to Carlos. The Joe Burrow effect is what I call it. Coach with his backup, and this is my thing. Don't you think that
you call him Joe Montana?
He's ceiling is still Montana. It's still Tom Brady. He's got a calf injury, and he's so good that this Zach Taylor, this coach, is so insecure, he doesn't want to bench him because he don't want to look like a bad coach with his backup in there, knowing that defense is way better prior to it. He should have benched Burrow a couple of weeks in. Did you listen to my show when I played Rich Eisen interview the other day with Taylor?
Robert, I think you got Home Alone syndrome, man.
Don't get me started on Home Alone. That's one of my favorites.
He gonna beat up them robbers. He gonna get them. Joe Burrow gonna get them.
That's funny. I love Home Alone.
No, I heard your speak on that.
Yeah, I think they'll probably beat the Rams. I don't think Burrow's going to play this week. Burrow's on the verge of tearing his Achilles, man. And I talked about that Friday show. Now, I hope that don't happen, folks. But you see a lot of this. We just saw this in week 1 with the calf injury going back to May, going back to the mini camps with Aaron Rodgers. He tears his calf on Monday Night Football. And now look at where the Jets are. So, hope that doesn't play out. You do not want to see a league with the top quarterbacks out because you're going to get a lot of Mac Jones versus Zach Wilson, right, Pickles? 15-10. That is a big time. That is the Yankees in the middle of the summer against the Cleveland Indians back in the late 90s. You know, that is a baseball score. So a really high-end baseball score, but it is a baseball score. So anyways, okay, so that's my take on that. I still got a gut feeling the Bengals are going to pull it off because they're 0-2. They have a major need to win this game. They do not want to go down 0-3. They are looking to they are looking to go to the Super Bowl. Everybody on that team is thinking Super Bowl or bust. They're at home, desperation. I think Cincinnati wins this game. Of course, hey, listen, you're going to. What if Burrow plays one series and then he steps away? Browning comes in and he's not that good, even though he's been in the system for 2 years. And then you have a situation where you've got Matt Stafford, an above-average defense in prime time against a Browning, a second-year player. So anything can happen. But I think, obviously, Philadelphia should win this game. Little sluggish, though. Little sluggish. There's something about those Thursday games. The players come in really sluggish the next week. It seems to be a thing offensively, Pickles. Okay. We got to start off with the Dolphins, okay? Miami, best offense in the league right now. Found a gem in this third-round running back, Pickles. Rookie Devon Achane, out of Texas A&M, ran a 4.32. Now, Spiller, it's not Seed. I can't remember the guy's last name, but his first name. But Spiller was their leading running back. And this guy backed up Spiller. Some of the old coaches called him kind of a scat back. He's very small, but he is runs at 4.32 breakaway speed. Got a lot of game speed. He's a rookie. Didn't get many touches. Didn't get many touches the first 2 games. And now him and Mostert are CJ. And that's not CJ. That's the other one. This guy may be kin to CJ Spiller. But either way, he was the leading back at A&M. This guy was the second back there. But I remember watching him, his combine. I'm like, man, 4.32. Wow. But he's only 5'9". Only reason he wasn't drafted a lot higher because of his size. Maybe the coaches were thinking he can't pick up on blitzes on the pass because of his, low center of gravity. Maybe he wasn't thick enough, too much of a smaller player, but he's held his own. And now I think he's going to be a big part of what Miami tries to do, okay? But if you look at it, you got him and Mostert, had a history of injuries going back to his 49er days. These guys, and when I was looking at the box score here and comparing it to the best offenses in the league, and Miami, as of now, that's where, it's still the first, according to Bill Belichick, it's still the first quarter. Bill Belichick and a lot of the coaches, they divvy out the season. The first quarter, the first 4 games, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Of course, now you got an extra game in there because you got 17. But you get the point. Dolphins, best. They lead the team in passing. They lead the league in passing and rushing. They lead the league in total yards. I do not recall a team having that kind of firepower. But I'll say this: Tua, 26 pass attempts, and they had over 43 carries there. 42 carries by non-quarterbacks. 42 carries there, rushed over 350 yards. Now, that type of play could take Miami into the postseason and be successful in the postseason. All right, scoring 70 points here on Denver. Now, I'll say this: that was without Jalen Waddle. Okay, there's no rhyme or reason to their offense right now. You say, well, what the heck are you talking about? Tua, he threw way over 30 times in the Charger game. Okay, he threw like almost 40 times in the Patriot game, which they scored 24 points. So that Bill Belichick defense
looks halfway reasonable. Now they score 34 points against the Charger. They score 70 against Denver. And then 24, it looks like the defense had a well of a day there. But now if you're Mike McDaniel, you got to think to myself, you know something? I need to lean on this running game and not my own understanding. This guy was a ball boy for the Denver Broncos back in the day and says it would be a tragedy if I was not a Denver Bronco player. That was when he was a kid, back when Mike Shanahan, the dad, was coaching there. And I'll tell you what, it was a good little soundbite here. I will say this, that's his former home team. Now, remember, the defensive coordinator there used to be the head coach there with the Denver Broncos. It was a lot of personal issue there and a lot of proving it. I will say this. Now, Mike White throwing a bomb deep in the fourth quarter when you're up like 56-13. Watch out for that. What goes around comes around. When you run the score up like that, here's a cut from NFL Network. Mike Daniel putting a coaching clinic on against his hometown team. Talk about full circle. This was back in 2000 from NFL.com. Listen up.
Saying I have to be a Denver Broncos football player.
This is a young Mike McDaniel with 2 earrings, probably 14 or 15 years old.
I cannot, my life will not be successful if I don't play professionally.
Miami Dolphins will finish with 726 total yards. That is second most ever by a team in a game in NFL history. There's 70 points, also number 2, in a game that almost defies description.
And that was against Sean Payton. Now, some of you could say, well, maybe that's karma against Sean Payton running the score up with Drew Brees back in the day. Okay. So there's a bigger point to be made here, folks. And you say, well, what is that? I'll say, look at Robert Saleh. Okay. Look at Robert Saleh in the same division. Pickle says it was 25 points between 2 teams. Let's go out west to Kansas City. You look at the 10 points and the dreadful offense of the Chicago Bears, led by head coach Matt Eberflus. And you look at what Sean McVay, who's playing tonight with the Super Bowl ring, you look at that 70 points by McDaniel there with this Dolphin team without one of their leading receivers, Jalen Waddle. And I'll tell you what, it makes these owners think, why are we even looking at these defensive-minded head coaches? That game was unwatchable. 25 points between the Jets and the Patriots. And it's September, folks. That is a late December. That is a snow globe game. That is a game with 60 miles an hour wind, and it's blistering cold out there. That is not a game. But that kind of quarterback play and that lack of imagination there, the owners are going to look at that. And you say, well, what about Pete Carroll? What about Mike Tomlin? What about Bill Belichick? Those 3 are grandfathered in. Those 3 are Super Bowl winners. And quite frankly, 2 could be out the door and 1 could get canned. And Mike Tomlin. Now, of course, Pittsburgh won last week against the Raiders. But you get my point here. Teams are going to go look. They're going to go offensive first. Then they're going to go defense. Then they're going to like, these guys are playing chess as these offensive-minded head coaches. The rules, everything links. You say, well, why do you say that? Also, you got to look at not just X's and O's on Sundays in September. You got to look at the Jimmies and Joes and who's calling for what come March, free agency time, April. Dwayne Brown, he's already done. He's already hurt again. they're going to have to get a left tackle with the Jets. Zach Wilson, he's playing checkers out there, man. Mike White, his backup threw a touchdown. Now, that was a little much there for Dolphins, and that game was way out of hand. It was like 56-13. It was like one of those blowout Super Bowls, like the 94 49ers against the LA Chargers, led by Junior Seau, and that beat down. But you got to look at it that way, man. And the Jets game was so bad, even Joe Namath had a comment about it. See what he said here. And Devontae Adams, man, I got all kinds of stuff here. I'm not going to get to all this stuff today, folks. I'm not going to get to all of it. Let's see if I had it. I thought I had a quote here. This is on Michael Kidd K's show today. Joe Namath, former Jet quarterback, talking about the Jets. He says, I didn't take anything positive out of it, quote. It was awful, Namath told Michael Kidd K, ESPN New York, referring to Wilson's performance. Namath was irked by, this is from ESPN, a transcript of it. Well, Wilson's first sack came when he went down without being touched. He says, you sit down. You sit down on a play. You go right down. What happened, Namath said. I thought you were trying to make a play, trying to win and make plays. You quit on that play. What's going on? It's disgusting. The former Hall of Famer said he would trade Wilson. I wouldn't keep him. I've seen enough. So a lot of people's thinking about that. So, but it's a lot of it is the intentions of the head coach, the line. I've talked about it ad nauseum. You've got to get that. You've got to get some speed on the outside, and a lot of it is scheme, folks. It is scheme, and you see these offensive. We look at the last few Super Bowl winners: Andy Reid, Sean McVay. You know, look who they're playing. Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. So it's, and then, of course, with Tampa there, with Brady and that team and that offense. So it's offensive-minded. And I like the physicality of games. I like setting the tone. I like being on a team that gets stops, you know. But at some point, if your defensive, and there shouldn't be this, the defensive-minded head coach, but you cannot poo-poo the offensive line. You can't just throw a bunch of guys. We saw that with Tennessee. You know, this is what I told Carlos, and this is what I mentioned last week about Tennessee and in Cleveland.
Dogs going to, but since we're talking about the Titans, let's knock out a couple birds in one stone. They're 3.5-point underdogs going to Cleveland. Now, Cleveland, we just talked about Cleveland. Rough Monday night game. Pittsburgh put a knot on their head, but I felt like, and Deshaun Watson, he's making me look bad, man. He's not playing up to his contract. I think he bounces back, though. Yeah. Rome Ford's not a bad fill-in there. They do have some injury on their secondary. Newsom is going to be out. But I tell you what, folks, I'm not a Kool-Aid drinker. I actually like Cleveland.
Yeah, and they won 27-3. Now, Cleveland defensively is playing as dominant defense as Miami is offensively. All right, I looked up some numbers on them, and I'll tell you, folks, they held Tennessee. They held Derrick Henry to 20 yards rushing, 100 yards passing by Ryan Tannehill, 5 sacks, no touchdowns. I mean, total dominance. They are the total opposite. They lead the league in least passing allowed, least rushing yards allowed, least total yards allowed, least points allowed. Now, of course, they went against Kenny Pickett, Ryan Tannehill, and who else did they play here? Of course, a banged up Joe Burrow with the bad calf injury, you know. But and of course, you know, Deshaun Watson came back like I said he would. You know, Watson, 123.4 quarterback rating. in that game. So I guess Stefanski finally took my advice and said, listen, Deshaun, hey, man, you got to make plays out here, okay? You've got to make plays out here. But Tennessee, best offensive lineman, down, some kind of appendix issue 2 weeks in a row. I don't know if he'll be back next week. If you get him back next week, they got a good shot at Cincinnati. They got a really good shot at Cincinnati because I don't know what condition Burrow's going to be in on a short week coming down to Nashville. Here in the Nashville area where I'm at now, come Sunday. So Tennessee's catching a break. If they can get him back, that's a big difference. That's their push up that left side. But those are my two dominant performances of the week. Defensively, it was Cleveland. Total dominance. Offensively, 70 points in Miami. It's the second year of the system here. I'm not ready to crown this team. Again, Bill Belichick puts it in quarters here. Is this team going to be playing well? They're going to get a test come Sunday, okay? They got to play at Buffalo. And Buffalo, to their defense, you say, well, it's Sam Howell. Now, this team, very good defensive line. A much improved offensive line. Buffalo's defense Sunday really showed up and showed out. Tre'Davious White, their lead corner, this is his second year back from injury. He got an interception. Micah Hyde, he's also coming off of an injury. He got an interception in that game. What was it, 37-3? Very Mike Tyson effect here. And Josh Allen only one touchdown, one pick. But they had 168 yards rushing. Now, of course, Allen ran for 46 of them, but Allen only ran 3 times. He ran when the zone was wide open and everybody had their back to him playing back, and he just ran in the open field there. But, so that's going to set up a well of a match. Going back to Denver, I'm a little bit out of order here. I'm not ready to, Sean McVay, Sean Payton, he took the blame with Vance Joseph being the defensive coordinator. His first year at the Saints in 2006, they went 10-6. They didn't go all the way to the Super Bowl and win it. They did go 10-6 and get to the playoffs, But he may have to, he was at the Saints for a long time. He may have to fire this guy and get another coordinator. Now, mind you, Kansas City, as good as Kansas City's been, remember, they couldn't get stops either at one time. The first few years when Andy Reid was at Kansas City, he had this guy named Bob Sutton as the coordinator. And then in 2019, that they hired Steve Spagnuolo, the former Giants defensive coordinator, who shut down Tom Brady practically, and that 2007 Patriot team in the Super Bowl there. Not a great head coach. Big Spags was a really, really good defensive coordinator. And, of course, we know what happened in 19 and 20. They won the Super Bowl. So adjustments will be having to make. It's hard just to go into an organization and go pop, 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 and make things happen, even with the really good coaches. I still think that this team, Denver, will finish strong. I think they're working out some kinks here. I do like the way their offensive line is starting to play better now. Again, maybe, just maybe, Joseph might not be fitting the scheme. You're giving up 70 points, man. There's some issues there, but I'll say this. I'm not ready to give up on them. I didn't have this team in the playoffs anyways. Too many questions, too many injuries at the skill position to start the season. We got to let them play out. And again, not ready to Miami could get overconfident and lose to Buffalo come Sunday. I don't know that. I have to break down the injury report. I'm not going to predict that game on Monday. but it's really filling out to be an interesting division, you know. And going back to Cleveland, you know, as far as Tennessee is concerned, again, Cleveland should be 3-0. The Ravens lost yesterday. All right. The Ravens, the way the season works is every year, teams lose the teams that they shouldn't. And then they beat a team you feel like they shouldn't have beat. I felt like Cincinnati's the better team than Ravens. They shouldn't have beat the Ravens. But, you know, Burrow, he had his calf injury, and the Ravens took advantage, and they won. Now, the Ravens have 7 starters out, but they still should have beat the Colts, right? They should have. I mean, the Colts are starting quarterbacks out. They got Gardner Minshew. So they lose to the Colts, last-second field goal, you know. So it kind of evens out at the end of the day. But the Ravens, they're a team. They're a physical, super physical team, and they've always seemed to get injuries. There's some kind of problem there. You know, left tackle out, center's out, cornerbacks out. You know, Odell Beckham out again. That's a waste of money. I mean, that's $15 million. You're never going to get back, man. You're never going to get back if you're a Ravens fan. You know, and I want to say that I think they played Pittsburgh Sunday. And Pittsburgh is jacked up and ready for them. Big win there out in Pittsburgh. But my point is, probably the Bills shouldn't have lost that Jets game. You know, they shouldn't have lost that Jets game. But they did, and I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't beat this really hyped up Miami team right now. Okay, so it just kind of all evens out here. But I'll say this: if the playoffs are starting next week, I would pick Miami to go to the Super Bowl. First time since 1984, 85 with the 84-85 with Dan Marino's second year. Okay, all righty then. Mostert had a monster game. Yeah, he did, Pickles. Had him on fantasy, 41 points. Had all those points on fantasy, didn't win any money, which I'm considering, folks. Doing a best bets show on Thursday. My 3 best picks here, because fantasy seems to be more, especially the daily, that more people are buying so many lineups. It's harder and harder to win. They're kind of polluting the system a little bit, if you ask me. Okay. All right. Carlos says I have them winning division. Take a few Titans. Offensive line showed up. Yeah, well, they didn't show up. They're down 2 starters, and Dillard's getting killed out there. You know, the Titans, they'll probably get Sonorski back here in the next week or so, maybe next week. They're going to get their right tackle back after these 6 games. If they can win 2 more games, and I think they can, if Tennessee can win 2 more games, they got a good shot to win that division, because Jacksonville just lost. And I'll talk about that here in a minute. Buffalo played well. Denver, no place to go but up. I do any time to scores. Bet any touchdowns. Anytime. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah. Anytime touchdowns with FanDuel, those things really add up in a parlay. Okay, listen, let's go down to the south to Jacksonville. Jacksonville looked like a team that is entitled. They played like a team who the media has been, people like Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, some people calling him football Jesus. I think that was a linebacker. I can't remember this guy's name. He's with Fox Sports. He's former linebacker for. People are calling him the player off of remember the Titans, the quarterback, the very talented quarterback. And, you know, they went on their winning streak last year. and they swept Tennessee. They had the big comeback against the Chargers. They get Calvin Ridley, and now they feel like they're there. You know, they feel like they're the second coming here, you know, in the NFL. And this team has not been ready to play no game this year. They barely beat the Colts. Barely beat the Colts week 1. You know, they get gassed up. They know they're playing the Chiefs, who's had their problems as well. Offensive line issues. First game back with a knee brace from Travis Kelce. 51% snap count for Chris Jones, their best defensive player. It's really hot and humid down there. That's a big home field advantage, and they lose that game, only score 9 points. The Jags, I'm talking about. And they felt like Houston, with cornerbacks out, a rookie starting his, banged up offensive line, cornerbacks out on defense, and it was totally no show. Total no show. Came out flat early. And that's the way ESPN described it. Let's see what they said here. Because, let's see. Hold on, folks. Got so many screenshots here. I can't keep up with it. It says the Jaguars were flat from the start, struggling to get anything going. Their first 5 drives with all those players, ended up in missed field goals, a punt blocked, and a punt and a fumble. You know, trailing 17-0 at halftime. Who was it? Bill Walton said one time when Chris Webber, when he was working ESPN NBA, Chris Webber, there was an early start time for the, I think it was the Kings or somebody who was playing the Nets. So one of those 12 o'clock Eastern start times. And Bill Walton said, listen, somebody needs to tell Chris Webber the game started at noon, you know. He was loafing in the first half, and somebody called the guy in the locker room and said, hey, Bill Walton's calling you out, man. So he comes out and balls out in the second half, you know. But plus they had a fullback. You give up a fullback touchdown in special teams. Jacksonville, what do y'all think? Did y'all go party last night? I mean, what are you doing? So here's a piece here from Doug Peterson trying to explain this debacle. Let's see. Let me I've got so many notes wrote down. Minute 45. Okay, let me see if I can get this coming up. It'll probably take a second, folks, because of the because you know how this stuff is on YouTube. Probably play a stupid commercial.
Availability is the best ability. So I push
a little cheesy commercial here. Gotta pay the bills. And we'll fast forward it.
Yeah,
here we go.
And then we just lost leverage. I mean, guys see the ball on the ground and
Doug Peterson talking about the bleep cups by Jacksonville.
About 4 guys, I think 5 guys missed tackles. I mean, that's just unacceptable, and that can't happen when you have such a great kick.
At what point does the "it's early" excuse kind of go out the window?
Yesterday. We're too far down the road. We've been together for going on 2 years now. You know, we know each other, players, coaches, players. I just think there's just a sense of guys are just pressing a little bit too much, trying to make plays, than just let the game come to them. And it's put us in a bind, particularly on third downs.
Is there anything to being overconfident in the ability to come back? Dating all the way back to last year, a lot of the games, even the wins, you were down at some point.
This guy's really pressing, Doug Peterson.
You had the talent to make the plays when it mattered.
I mean, obviously that's a good thing, knowing that we've been in those situations before and we've pulled ourselves out. Yesterday was a little different, however.
Yeah. Now, Doug Peterson, the big knock on him in Philadelphia when things go south, he can be a little passive. Now, I just praise offensive head coaches. He's an offensive-minded head coach. He's got a ring with Philadelphia. 2017, right? Nick Foles beat Tom Brady. 400, 500 yards on Bill Belichick's defense. But there towards the end, he got a little passive. When you play like that at home against a team like Houston, they're all professionals. I get it. And kudos to D'Amico Ryan. He had them guys ready. You give up a fullback. I mean, I wonder what Mike Wessoff would say about that. My special teams guy, to his special teams, giving up a fullback, running back a touchdown on special teams there, Chad. You're kidding me. You're not kidding me. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, they were a total no. They should have got booed out of their own stadium. I don't know who they play, if they even play next week, but I guarantee you they'll be ready to play. If they're not ready to play, somebody, I don't care if it's the owner, needs to get in Doug Peterson's rear end. Now, if you're a Titans fan, you're watching this Jacksonville team who do not have their left tackle. They replaced their right tackle with a rookie, and they're shuffling that offensive line. Keep that in mind. And as good as Lawrence looks at times, he has happy feet back there. And he's not super quick. He's kind of a long strider. Okay? This is what I was telling people. This is why I didn't think they would get the best record in the AFC. I said the winner of the South will get into the playoffs. Nobody else in the AFC South will get to the playoffs. Now, of course, with Zach Wilson being the quarterback with the Jets, anything's possible, okay? With the Chargers, with their slow start, anything's possible, I guess. But the talent's still there. They're going to get their left tackle back after week 4 in Cam Robertson, who was suspended for PEDs or something. And I think they'll be okay. But games like that, it keeps the Titans in it, The Colts winning 2 games, that was a fluke. Houston's still going to be Houston. Although C.J. Stroud, the guy I said I thought was going to be the best quarterback this time around. I thought he was going to be the best quarterback out of this class. Will Levis, I talked about this on the Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoats show. He can't stay healthy. I'm having images of Sam Bradford. A guy doesn't even get hit and he gets hurt, gets hit walking off the airplane. I'm having images of him with Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, and that offense. He's already got a concussion. He's still in protocol. The number 1 pick, Bryce Young, didn't play. They got beat by Seattle last week. I said, he's very accurate, but he's very small. You trip this guy's shoelaces, he hurts his ankle. Go figure. He's hurt. So it's Stroud, no interceptions. Over 900 and something yards the first few games here. So if you're a Houston with the defensive-minded head coach, right, and no real big-name targets, Nico Collins, So it's some guy named Tank Dale something, Dale Computer I've never heard of, scored. So kudos to him. Kudos to D'Amico Ryans. Now, of course, we're still talking just a few games. But you got to be somewhat optimistic if you're a Houston Texans fan, and it can't be the end of the world if you're a Tennessee Titans fan. It can't be the end of the world. They've got to get Sonorski back, and they've got to get Petit Farid, whatever his name is, back at right tackle. That's why I pound and pound and pound on this desk and say, don't worry about DeAndre Hopkins. If you cannot get Hopkins the ball, he makes no never mind. I would have went after a guard. I would have went after Orlando Brown. I would have went after Ben Powers, the guard there, who signed. He's a high-end guard there. I would have drafted Sonorski and maybe moved him to blocking guard or something on the other side there. Okay, put the money into the big uglies. You know, it is what it is. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. Okay, Mike Williams. You know, I'll say this. He tears his ACL, and this Minnesota team, or this LA Charger team, played about the way I thought that they would play. You know, they're a team that played down to the wire. Brandon Staley going for it inside his own 30. If he misses that, and Minnesota comes back and takes the lead 29-28 or whatever, I think he could have been fired today as we speak. We're talking about Keelan Moore being the new interim head coach of the LA Chargers. But I called it. This guy's over his head, man. But Mike Williams, they've got Quentin Johnson. That injury, they've got Keenan Allen, who's flourishing in this offense, Pickles. 25 catches. He's having one of those crazy good days. And he's feeling better than he was last year, Keenan Allen. You've got him, the Quentin Jackson, the guy from the rookie from TCU. You got Josh Palmer. I told you all, Everett at tight end. This is the deepest wide receiving room in the league. This team's underachieved. They got the win. Kudos to them. They beat Minnesota, another team that I said had 11 one-score games last year. Some of these clowns on ESPN actually had them going to the Super Bowl. That's why I say watch Skope. I said they ain't going to make the playoffs, you know. Playoff? No, they ain't going to make the playoffs. They got to win a game first. Jim Irsay, or actually, I think it is. I can't remember that guy's name. 400 yards passing and lost, Chad. Yeah, that's right. I had him on fantasy. State had the best talent and the worst result in NFL. Yeah, you put this McDaniel on there, and these guys will score 40 points a night. So, interesting stuff. Okay, that takes me to good Skope, bad Skope, folks. Okay, good Skope. Although I just started off with that one. Although sloppy Chargers win despite losing Mike Williams and Brandon Staley. And we talked about it just now, going for it late inside his own 30, Pickles. And they missed it. And, of course, the defense saved them and kept Kirk Cousins and Jefferson, who had over 150 yards again, kept him out of the end zone for Minnesota. But I was right. I said the Chargers would win. I didn't say it'd be pretty. It ain't never pretty with this guy. Ooh, it's so pretty. Bad Skope. Notre Dame. Oh, man, Notre Dame. Why Sam Hartman, 50, 60 starts in college football, and you lay a big, fat egg against Ohio State. And kudos to the Ohio State defense. John Restano, I know you're watching. Congratulations, brother. Need to reach out to you. Maybe bring you on Wednesday. He did nothing I watched as much of that game as I could. And he did not make any big throws. I was really disappointed in this guy. And, of course, young head coach Marcus Freeman, your defensive coordinator, yourself. You had 10 guys on the field. The last two plays where Ohio State takes the lead. 2, you had 10 guys. You gave the game away, man. You pooped in your pants in prime time. So close, yet so far. They haven't beat Ohio State since the 30s. And now that win streak stands. Although I did. Now, Carlos, you got one on me on there, but I got 2 on you in the NFL. I found Notre Dame at plus 3.5. I found them at I got the 3.5 and won a few dollars off that. But then it went back to 3. And if you went back to 3, it's a void. They'll give you your money back, but you're not going to win anything. Okay, so I was wrong there. And my thing of going back to Sam Hartman, they do quarterback for the transfer for Notre Dame. I think he dropped to about a 4th round pick because of that. He was going to be a 2nd round guy, maybe a late 1st, maybe push. Because I thought maybe, you got Lou Holtz, former Notre Dame coach. We get the best offensive line in the country. We're going to beat Ohio State and beat them handily. Ron Day's going to get another big loss, and none of that happened, man. Kudos to Ron Day. Kudos to having that team ready. That Ohio State on the road, 9th game. Very good Notre Dame team. They come up just short. Just short. So, big win for Ohio State. I was totally wrong. I was very, very locked in on Notre Dame winning that game. Okay, good scope. Cleveland, too much talent on both sides to lose 2 straight balls, 2 straight games here. Now, Deshaun Watson didn't throw a bad ball. He had 123 plus quarterback rating against Tennessee. That's the Deshaun Watson I know from Houston. That's the guy that's won playoff games. That's the guy that has ratings, interception, touchdown, interception that is equivalent to a guy like an Aaron Rodgers. That's the guy that maybe the Stefanski finally got off the schneid there and said, hey, listen, man, you've got to play better. You've got to be. And, of course, he hit Amari Cooper plus 100 yards and a touchdown, as I predicted that they would do, and beat up on Tennessee. But listen, Tennessee's down offensive linemen like nobody's business. And that Cleveland defense, best defense out there, number 1 against the run. I was also right. Jim Schwartz would sure up that run defense. And I said they'll be the best team in the AFC North. Cincinnati would trail them, but barely. It's still early in the game. Again, it's just the first quarter of the season now, folks. Now, of course, Burrow may tear his Achilles. I don't want that to happen. I'm just saying I don't like Burrow being out there. You got to save him from himself and put another quarterback in there. Okay, bad scope. Thought Colorado would stay within striking distance of Oregon. And it is what I thought it was. They had the overtime game. Listen, let's go back to TCU, okay? They played over their head against TCU. They played with a sense of urgency at a really high level, starting with Shooter Sanders, as would get rid of that football so quickly, because the commentators saying, listen, there's questions about this line, and he's going to have to get – and Schroeder Sanders, those first couple games, he was getting rid of that ball like Tom Brady. He had worked with Tom Brady in the offseason, the son of Dion, and he was getting rid of that ball in 2.5 seconds. If you watch all of the TCU game and about 75% of the Nebraska game, he's getting rid of that thing like that, He's getting rid of that ball like that. Now, then he started getting overconfident, trying to hold the ball, make the big play, let's lead the trend on X app, the Twitter app. Let's lead Sports Center. Let's get the people talking about me. And then he got creamed here. And, of course, his best player, receiver, Travis Hunter, was out of this game. They went into overtime. They brought a lot of that on themselves. A lot of chirping in the Colorado State game. And then, of course, they went up to Oregon and got their rear end handed to them. Kudos to Keith Ingles saying he thinks that point spread probably would get covered, and it did. And I was wrong. I thought maybe they'd keep it within that 20 points. I thought Oregon would win that game. And a lot of people saying, man, that coach for Oregon, they're playing a lot of smack talk from Dan Lanning. Well, hey, look, that's what Sanders has been doing. He's found an issue with every head coach. Of course, Sanders said, listen, man, hey, we know what we got to get now. And he's got to get that offensive line squared away. And he's got to get the defensive line squared away. He's got speed on the outside. And he's got to get the interior taken care of. Still say they'll probably win 7-8 games. Don't think they'll beat USC, which is it's about 21.5 right now. But that will be in Boulder. But USC, they're going to give up some points. That may be an over game there. But USC will probably win that. So I was wrong about them not covering. Okay, yeah, Pickle said something about Dallas. Dallas is going with the Cowboys. You're not going to win all of them. Arizona played late into the fourth quarter against Washington. Josh Dobbs, a journeyman quarterback, working his butt off to get to be a starter in this league. Been around for 7 years. Never really got his opportunity. He's finally got a shot here. Got his first win. Dallas, no Zach Martin, no center. Their league corner, Trayvon Diggs, tore his ACL. They're human. They're going to lose games. I wouldn't put too much into that. They're not going to go undefeated. They're not going to go. Never said they would. Never said. Nobody in this league is going undefeated. Miami could lose this week. I think Miami's the only undefeated team left. I think Dallas will get their players back, and they'll start running the football more and get back to what they do best. You don't have to use Pollard every time. Use that Dukes Vaughn. Use this other Rico Gathers or whatever his name is. Use that running back. Keep those interceptions down. I think he did have one pick there. And get now, Dak does have when you start getting a lot, when they start replacing that line, Dak has problems. Philly. Philly's the other one. Yes, two of them. Yeah, some people think Philly may lose tonight. Yeah, it's Philly, and of course it's Miami. Now remember, Philly's only played 2 games. They're playing the third game tonight. Remember, they played last Thursday, then they're playing this week. Let's see what their score is in that game. 13-3. Yeah, I did. Well, I mean, the defense is holding in there. Baker Mayfield is Baker Mayfield, And this whole thing about Taylor Swift dating Travis Kelce, it seems like a publicity. I don't know why Taylor Swift would need any more publicity. One of the most successful tours of all time. But she likes the limelight, She's jumping up and down. They're showing her every few minutes with the Mama Kelce inside the booth there, jumping up and down when Kelce got a touchdown. It was like 35-0 or something, And you could tell it's like she's screaming in there. I'm thinking, you're inside the closed suite there. Nobody can hear you on the outside. She's 33 years old. She still acts like she's about 15 because she's had so much concentration on her career. She hasn't really matured enough as an adult, though. Still like her work ethic. Don't care for the music myself, but you got to take your hat off. But it seems like her and Travis and his brother Jason, they're all kind of doing this together. Something came up about Jason Kelce merchandise is up 400%. This sounds like a really good business move for both parties. About 34 years old. They're almost exactly identically the same age here. Maybe they will get married and they'll live happily ever after, but it seems like a really good business move because the Kelce brothers are trying to build up their podcast, which is dreadful. But it'll get better with time. You got to put some time in this stuff, And of course, she kind of likes to stay in the limelight. You know, she's got a lot of different boyfriends. She's real caught up in her career and everything. She just kind of wants to stay relevant for whatever reason and do that. So a lot of people's talking about that. And that one just came to me. I didn't even put in. And Pickle says, going back to that Colorado, the Colorado player stomped on the Ducks logo before the game. Yeah, I saw some kind of footage of somebody saying that to Dion, don't stomp on the logo before the game. So the media don't cover stuff like that. That's why I like guys like Jason Whitlock. You know, he says, listen, man, we want you to be successful and everything, but you can't make it about you. And you got to tone down this rhetoric here with all that. And I've said that myself. You know, all this extra hype there, you can't make it about. So I think Dion's still learning. He's still got some bad ways in him. He's still got some of his old school. He still wants to be that player he was in '89, man. He still wants to be 22 himself. And I feel you, man. I'm not quite 56. I'm not 50, you know. But Dion, now, mind you, folks, he's only got 3 years prior to this as head coach, Deion Sanders does. So he's still learning. A lot of people are mad because of his rocket shot success. But a lot of college football is just putting the coaches in the right place, and it's recruiting. Getting your team right and recruiting. The rest of it is basically, you're just going to figure a lot of this stuff out with experience. You know, he coached some high school some years ago, 8-10 years ago. But as a collegiate coach, he's got 3 years at Jackson. And this is his first year in a major conference here. I think he will learn. I think he will get it together. Brought a lot of money to Colorado already, a lot of money to Boulder, a lot of money to the university, a lot of viewers to the networks. He's done really good. He's done but it is a process, and it's hard to do it overnight. Nobody, I don't know who thought they was going to win a national championship in year one. It wasn't me, you know. So either way, folks, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll give you the Power 5. I forgot to give you that last week here. I think because I got so far behind, I was do that Tuesday for use Tuesday to be an editing day because I had to work so late last week. So either way, I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place here on Sports Skope. Have a good night, everybody.